That's just the surface. Like, why? Why would you come over here illegally? Do all this? The stuff you did, especially for these women, trafficking and all this stuff with these kids, like people ain't talking about that enough. I don't understand why people not talking about them kids that's missing. But they all So with that being said, I want to talk about another W. If you need your liver tears, look at your cup, collect them, wipe your mouth, stay ladylike, and then put them down. So W, another W. Stand this. Another court battle. Now, I don't know if you all remember if you were following. They were also suing him all over the country because they were mad that they were shipping criminals and people who have done horrible things to women and children and all of these egregious things after they had already snuck into the country illegally. Now, the libs are outraged, were outraged, or were really finna be, because they sending them to prisons in other freaking countries that will accept them because their own darn countries will not. Because people have heard and they were trying to mock him and say they emptying out the insane asylum. If you want to talk about the book, like go back to some of my earlier videos. I was definitely, I'm still new at this, but like, so don't let like the image and all that. Just look at it, listen to the information. Don't judge me. But if you go back to one of them videos, I was following the border like it was crazy. They would not be doing this. So, I mean, there's some people like we got criminals. We got some crime. I am not far removed from that. You wanna know how I'm not? Guess why? So, with that being said, why we need more? That's just the surface. Like, why? Why would you come over here illegally? Do all this? The stuff you did, especially for these women, trafficking and all this stuff with these kids, like people ain't talking about that enough. I don't understand why people not talking about them kids that's missing. But they also not talking about some of them kids, a lot of them Trump found that was missing under the Biden administration because they was sending them to these what they call them shoot, dismiss me. I think I'm tipsy on liver tears. Sponsors. Sending the kids to the sponsors. Some of these kids will come sent across the border by themselves, or they'll show up with people and have like notes or a phone number, be like, send me here. Those people don't be family. They wasn't DNA testing them no more. At first they was DNA testing everything. Like if a child came over with an adult, they would DNA and make sure that that child belonged with that person, that was the parent or like something. Nope. That's not what happened. They don't want to tell you about the grape tree, that was across the other side of the border. Before they crossed that water, what you think that grape tree? All those women with their babies, the things that had to happen, the people that they owe when they get here, the cartels and stuff they bring it. But the difference between an American citizen criminal or just as diabolical and egregious and terrorist as far as I'm concerned, we know who they are. We got socials. Even if we see them, we got all these ideas. We don't know who these people are. They wasn't vetted at the border. They wasn't none of that. And when I say, and this is just my opinion, they do way more egregious stuff at a more rapid and higher rate. So we're talking about crime in the Black community and what are people doing to each other versus what they doing to whoever. It's a little bit egregious. It's like disgusting. So I don't know. But with that being said, these people were so mad. They fought, sued them again because they're shipping them to third world countries, shipping them to prisons, hard prisons, probably the ones we should have that were deterred. So with that being said, we're going to go over here over to Fox. We're going to talk about this and we'll get a perspective on their side on how this goes.
And that the Trump administration can continue deporting migrants to third countries without prior notice. The DHS responding to the decision saying, quote, the Supreme Court ruling is a victory for the safety and security of the American people. DHS can now execute its lawful authority and remove illegal aliens to a country willing to accept them, fire up the deportation plans. The ruling comes after a district judge accused Trump of violating an injunction order by deporting 8 criminal migrants to South Sudan. Let's bring in Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor, Jonathan Turley. Professor.
Now, hold on, because see, CNN ain't going to show you this, and they ain't going to show you the criminals, and they ain't going to show you, they're going to act like it's just all Mexican. They deporting anybody. Anybody can get it. And if y'all know now, they deporting the Haitians. Let me get her so I can take a look at this and read this. Okay. We got Enrique, Jesus. Oh, we got Asian. What he was doing. Oh, you see that? Can y'all see that? Who is Tone Kang out? These are people they fighting for, y'all. Jose. Look at him. Dion Peter Domacho, whatever you say. Robbery. Oh my God, look at Kyle Wow Mai. And Neo Mient. Now that the liberals wouldn't even trip off all of these things that they was doing. They'd just trip off the fact that I don't know how to pronounce their name. Oh my God. Let me see. Get back right. I don't even know how that look on the video, but I just wanted to show y'all that close up. But yeah, some more.
8 criminal migrants to South Sudan. Let's bring in Fox News contributor and George Washington University law professor, Jonathan Turley. Professor.
Anybody could get it, basically. That's what Trump. You hear illegally. First of all, you hear illegally, you got to go. But you can ring crimes and all that, like them egregious crime. Oh, we don't give a. I don't really give a damn right.
So thanks so much for joining the program.
Thank you, Lawrence.
You know, I get a kick of reading these opinions. I found this part of the dissent quite baffling. This is what Sonia Sotomayor is saying. Rather than allowing our lower court colleagues to manage this high-stakes litigation with the care and the attention it plainly requires, this court now intervenes to grant the government emergency relief from an order it has repeatedly defied. It's essentially, she's saying, oh, just let the lower court decide because it's a liberal court.
Right. I mean, the lower court judge said that, you're sending these people to countries that you've advised Americans to leave because of the violence. But ICE is saying, look, there's a reason why their home countries don't want them. Countries are not clamoring to get more felons, to augment their home population. And that's not our fault. It's your fault. You committed crimes here and you are deportable. And we're not a travel agency. So if your home country doesn't want you, then we're going to find the next best option. With this order, they're allowed to do that. I think part of the concern of the majority.
So what's the issue? If your own country do not want you, I told you, remember he kept saying, and they mocked him. I'm sorry. And they mocked him. And they mocked him. for saying that they was letting people out of their psychiatric wards and their prisons and sending them across the border. I don't believe he just was saying stuff, because what I have learned about President Donald J. Trump is that when he say something, no matter how he said, or it might be funny, or it might be like insensitive, as far as some people concerned, or sometimes as far as I'm concerned, I don't agree with every damn thing nobody do or say. But what I found out, he just be saying the real, and they don't like it. Like, he ain't really, no, not about like certain issues like that, big issues. Like, he ain't lying.
Is that judges seem to be throwing sand in the works. You know, we just had the Biden administration allowed millions into this country. And once they were here, a lot of people said, well, now they're here and you can't deport them in large numbers. You have to give them hearings. And at every stage, these trial courts have said, well, you need a hearing for this as well. For the Trump administration, that makes the task impossible to try to deal with the millions that were allowed in over the last 4 years.
So, Professor, is this a temporary decision, or does this put this issue to bed?
Well, I thought this would be a private conversation, but you can tell Brian, I know he raised that, that indeed this is temporary in the sense that the Court of Appeals decision will go forward. But in granting this relief, the majority has signaled that they do not believe that they're going to prevail on the merits here. And in the interim, the government is correct. They can resume their earlier position, which means they can resume these flights.
So, Professor, I guess the big question is, because we noticed that a lot of the progressives are using the courts as a defense here. What do they do now that this has been ruled on?
Well, we're seeing, as you know, Lawrence, this is a full court press among advocates for these individuals, and they are attorneys. They're trying to find every angle to help their clients. But they're going to many of these favorable jurisdictions and favorable judges, like the one in Boston, and they're issuing these injunctions. On Thursday, we may hear from the Supreme Court on possible limits on injunctions going forward. It's going to be an enormous decision, potentially, for the administration in the immigration area as well as other areas. The court could very well say, enough. We're not going to have individual judges now freezing the entire United States government on critical programs like this.
I cannot wait for that, because it's been out of control.
And that's what he did. That's what they did. That's what was done did. Done did. Done. That was the first video you saw. So, that's done. Another W. Cheers. Now, I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill and some possible holdups, okay? We're going to go over here. I believe it's political. And they're going to talk about the big, beautiful bill. So with the big, beautiful bill, what's happening is right now, and this is the bill, this is like the massive, like what Trump ran on, the no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, some special provisions. I can't remember. I don't believe, and we're going to look into this video because I believe they do address this and show a list, but of course, can't never trust everybody. But we're going to look at it. I can't see why they would just sit there and put a fake list up and then I list everything. So we're going to take a look at that. But I know he ran on the no taxing the Social Security, but I think people were blocking, or I think it's something like special that might take longer to where he wouldn't be able to do that. So it was some type of other incentive that is given to the people with Social Security. They will try to frame it as tax cuts for the billionaires. I'm not sure about that. Now, I don't mind giving rich people a break, or I'm not against capitalism, because I firmly believe, like, and even experience, I've heard bosses when I've been in meetings, I've been a manager before, I've been in these rooms where they're making the decisions on budgets and stuff. And a lot of times, like if they find room, if you're working for good people, if they find room and they say, oh, well, this isn't happening, like you will get incentives, you'll get bonuses or you get a raise, they can pay more, things of that nature. All the things that the Democrats say they won't. Like higher, like they get paid more, bonuses, people could do better, the economy thrive. So, plus, not to mention, because they'll be like tax the billionaires and well, they don't say millionaires no more because a lot of them are millionaires now. So they changed the narrative from millionaires to billionaires. So it can't be like, oh, well, I'm not a billionaire, because no, you're a millionaire now. But when you was broke, you was like millionaires. They already pay a majority of the taxes. If your taxes are taxed by a percentage, common sense would tell you that the people who make the most money are paying the most taxes, and the people who make the least money are paying the least taxes. So they're going off percentages. And the people that ain't doing a dang on thing but always running their damn mouth, they pay zero taxes. So that's how that works. Now, we're going to talk about the big, beautiful bill because there are some holdups and there are some GOP holdups, which is fine because people got their concerns. I understand that. We are not a cult, as some will try to have people to believe that conservatives are a cult, or I ain't going to even say conservative because I'm independent, but I am conservative leaning, and I'm not going to lie. Most likely I'm going to end up changing my vote to conservative, but we'll see how this goes. Okay? But we got some holdouts. And that's okay because we're not a cult. Like I said, as some will have you to believe. Now they're the cult because you will never see them dissent from one another. You might see a few John Fetterman. They don't like if they do dissent, or if they do kind of more, they will ostracize you. So the tolerant, loving party is really not so tolerant and not so loving, especially if we don't think like them. But let's go up here to make sure. Political. No, it's not political. But we're going to talk about the big bill.
Mariana Sotomayor of the Washington Post joins us as well. And Mariana, you also walk those halls with Lauren and me every single day. This is what the speaker just told our colleagues on Capitol Hill. He said, it doesn't make it easier. This is the ruling against a key portion of the bill that was just struck out because it does not meet the budget rules. Of course, that needs to be met in order to pass the bill along straight party lines in the Senate, meaning just Republican votes. He says, the speaker said, it doesn't make it any easier to make it to the July 4th deadline, but hope springs eternal, and we're going to work around the clock to try to meet that deadline. But what are you hearing about the challenges ahead to meet that deadline?
Oh, we always talk about how difficult these hurdles are. I think this is probably the biggest obstacle to come that either of us have experienced so far. And the reason why is because the Senate has really changed this bill. You add this parliamentarian who, of course, is the arbiter of all the rules of what can be included in this. And a lot of things are being taken out. And it's really angering a number of Republicans on the House side. Obviously, on the Senate, that's the first hurdle. But House Republicans are really not liking how this bill has been changed. For the most part, the math is not mathing.
Yes.
And that really upsets the Freedom Caucus, who for years have been saying we need to reduce the size of the federal government and we need to reduce the deficit. You also have moderates.
This bill does neither.
No. And with more that we're seeing, including this latest ruling that the parliamentarian said on this Medicaid provision, essentially what it does is what she's saying is that you should not include any provision that would allow some of these states to pay for undocumented immigrants being able to access health care. That's been a huge talking point for a number of Republicans. It's going to make for an interesting afternoon where at the White House there's going to be.
Okay, first of all, that's not a talking point. That's reality. Why should we pay for Why should we have to pay for the health care that we can barely afford and get ripped off out the wazoo out of our tax dollars for people who snuck over here illegally, committing crimes, dropping babies like chicken eggs in order to stand, like, you know what? I don't know. I just said, what? What? And any black person that be like on this stuff is crazy to me because they disfranchising us. They are pushing us out. Democrats are only doing that because they know they losing the black vote. We're only 13%, if that anymore, the population between the AB of our kids and the unaliving that our kids are doing to each other. So we ain't gonna even be that. They ain't stupid. Plus they want people to work their crops. They say it all the time. You better pay attention to what they saying. These people are evil. Period. Point blank.
This huge messaging pitch where they're trying to sell this bill to the American public, all while both Senate and House Republicans are really bickering over a number of these policies that make it really difficult.
And there's so much. This bill, we call it.
Now, it is stuff in this bill, and I get that's why I say we're not a cult of monolith or nothing like that. Nobody is. Then it's like, okay, what is this? What is this? The bill need to be shrunk down. Now, I am an advocate, and I thought they were doing this last year, or trying to get some pushed last year to where they have single issue bills, because there is no way that you can throw all this bull crap in 1,000 pages or whatever the case is, where half of them ain't even read it because it's. Let's be realistic. A gazillion amount of pages, but now you got AI, so ain't no excuse. But before now, whatever, you got all this, all these different issues, and then they make like the issues that sound pretty big, but then you got all these little micro bullshit in it. See, at this point, I'm drunk off liberal tears because all of them do that. These bills, I don't give a care if it's Republican, Democrat, like when they go up in this Congress and they manufacture these bills, they put too much shit in one damn bill. Then that's just what it is. Why can't we have single issue bills? God damn it, at the minimum 3, the most 5, some shit somebody could read. Sorry, I'll edit that out. That's my dog. At least somebody can read. So in turn, what you have is when they're trying to get this bill pushed through, now the Democrats ain't never in their life wanted to read this whole bill out, but in order to stall this, and in order to do one of their tactics and do one of their performances, they held up this vote however many hours, and maybe we'll get to it one day, maybe we won't. There's no people doing it. But however many hours to make one of them read the whole entire bill. I think it was like 900 or something pages. Now, is it a problem? Yeah, read the shit. Since y'all want to make bills this bad, I bet if y'all keep having to read it, you won't make them that fat. But all this stuff. But since you did, you read it, you held it up, and the only reason I'm just being about it is because they don't do that, and they only did it for one reason. They didn't do it out of like the goodness of their heart of trying to make things better. They only did it for one reason, and that's because they wanted to hold up the vote, block Trump, TDS, Trump duration, all that stuff. If they'd have done it like in good faith, and this was a standard, I wouldn't have an issue with it. Read the bill, but now that you did. Now we get to hear everybody get their positions out, but I bet you darn believe they don't try to read if they ever get back in power. Don't even look good because they don't even know who they are, or even present something, or however, whatever. They ain't gonna read it. They gonna stuff all their trans stuff in there, all they Sesame Street funded trans stuff and diversity or whatever, all the way in another country, trying to see if tadpoles can switch all that stuff that they gonna do over there. They not gonna read it because all that stupid mess gonna be in there.
Mega bill, a policy, because there's so many issues and just a handful of them. It not only would it extend the 2017 tax cuts permanently, business and individual tax cuts, which would cost trillions of dollars, but also new work requirements on social safety net programs, dealing with no taxes on tips and overtime, phasing out those Biden-era green energy tax credits, money for the Pentagon, hundreds of billions of dollars for the Pentagon, border security, and the like, and then raise the debt ceiling, the Senate plan would, by $5 trillion.
Okay, so GOP domestic policy bill key items. This is extends to 2017 tax credits. What's wrong with that? Because I don't want to go in. If I'm not mistaken, I think something was less this year. It felt like it was, even if it wasn't. But new work requirements for Medicaid and food stamps. I think that's a big one because you want to know what? I used to get Medicaid. Well, I don't get Medicaid now. I used to get food stamps. I used to get Medicaid. I used to get a check. And guess what I had to do to make sure and ensure that I got that check and to ensure that I got those food stamps? You know what I had to do? I had to, and Bill Clinton did this, a Democrat. Bill Clinton did all this. He put us on a 5-year. You only have to get 5 years of assistance. And with that 5 years, and this is accumulating one like 5 years straight, so it's 5 years total. So if you was doing what you're supposed to and you used it just when you needed it and not when you just was abusing it, it lasted. So, and I'm just going to say this preface. So what I mean by that is when this started, I believe like it was 1996 when Bill Clinton did that or something around there, he started the 5-year thing. My child that was born in 96, so my child that was born in 2008. When 2008 came, I still had funds left to use for him. Not like a month, but it was probably like a year or almost a year. You want to know why that happened? Because I worked. I didn't abuse it. When I worked, I didn't go get recertified. I didn't do all that. I let them know I was working and I didn't get it. I didn't need it. When I needed it, and I was a young mother. So we're going to put that in perspective. I was a young mother. I was 19. When I needed it, I got it. When I didn't need it, I did not get it. And that one didn't even have nothing to do with Clinton or the policy. It was just, I didn't like them in my business. And I want to drive. And you know what else they made me do? The work requirements, what I'm going back to, we had to turn in work like we look for a job. I think the unemployment office still do that. Like you have to show or put something in saying that you look for a job. You had to do that to get your check. To ensure that you kept getting your check, you had to prove and physically drop it off to the office, to your physical case manager, not an automated system, not a phone worker, a case manager who would actually sometimes speak life into us and would encourage us to do better. See, you don't have that. They don't want that. No. They don't want that. They don't want the live case managers. But my point is, we had to drop that off. We had to show that we applied for at least 4 jobs. We had to prove it, the number, who we talked to, all that. Drop this form off in order to get our check. So where did that all end? Like, what are we doing? No accountability, no nothing. People just think everything owed to them. They don't want to work for nothing. You got generational Section 8 families, generation like all this. Like, come on, man. No taxes on tips or overtime. Who gonna be mad at that? So if these dang old people, just know, when the Democrats don't vote, they ain't for the middle class. They for the elite, like they act like they not. Okay? They don't want you to have work requirements because they want you to always depend on them. No tax on tips or overtime. They don't care if you get taxed or not. They don't give a damn. Phasing out the green energy tax credits. You don't need that. You want to know why? I'm going to tell you what that is. They don't want that because that was Biden's thing to try to make everybody buy electric vehicles. First of all, like everybody can afford them. Second of all, if we want an electric vehicle, we can have an electric vehicle. You can't make us determine what cars. Biden was talking about taking gas stoves out of our houses. Ain't nobody got time for that. Like, what are you talking about? Gas stoves cook the best. And EVs don't even drive across the country right. Like, without you have gone somewhere. They always trying to do something. Phasing out money for the Pentagon, border security, detentions, and deportations, period. And lifts the debt ceiling. Well, we'll see about that. And the reason I say we'll see about that because they do this stuff, but they don't consider all the tariffs that Trump implemented that's already bringing in millions, billions of dollars. He's not considering, what was it? Is it the tariffs? Economy, like they're not considering the stock market that's just booming right now, but we're gonna get to that.
Dollars. And then, but there are the sticking points. The Medicaid cuts are sticking points, how to deal with state and local tax deductions. That is a huge fight that could actually derail the bill in the House. And then phasing out the tax credits and those Freedom Caucus members that Mariana was talking about, they want those out immediately. Senate Republicans, not so sure. There are so many issues. But here's my question. You cover the White House. Yep. Trump is demanding this by July 4th. There is no reason for this to be done by July 4th other than the fact that he wants to just have it done by July 4th. Will he be open to delaying this past July 4th?
Oh, we have seen him, move the goalposts, in situations like this before, particularly when something is going through Congress like this. But the sense of urgency is also rooted in that this bill has so many things in it, but also it has funding for some major parts of his domestic policy agenda, right? Money for immigration enforcement and those mass deportations. That's this bill. Also, a lot of provisions just to zoom out that impact his supporters as well. When you talk about Medicaid, when you talk about SNAP benefits, not only does it expose different fissures in the Republican Party, but also when you talk about the funding that he needs to accomplish many things that he campaigned on, that's also this bill. I'm also interested, just in terms of this White House event today, I'm going to be there going to that event, how much actually he uses this moment to push for this bill and not for some of the things that we talked about in the previous segment as well, maybe criticizing the media coverage as well. But
that timeline in serious doubt. I want to get CNN congressional correspondent Lauren Flax here to.
I don't want to get CNN congressional correspondent.